Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. And today we are discussing about the ESG, which stands for Environment, Social Impact, and the Governance. Very, very important subject if you are in business. And to discuss this important subject, I will be joined by Basant Tomar, very, very senior person from our industry. So we are live. And if you have any questions or if you want to participate in this discussion, please do so. So without further ado, let me welcome Basant to this session. Hello, Basant ji. How are you? Welcome back to Akulmach Live.
Hey CK, how are you doing? Thank you so much. Good to be back again.
Well, Basant, we are all fine, and we always look forward to this Saturday discussion that because this is live and a lot of interaction we do. Today's subject is about ESG, and before I actually start the question, I would like to give a little feedback to the viewers. Is that there is a sustainability goal set up by United Nations. There are 28 or 27 levels which companies need to qualify and attain, and then you can start by level 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. And therefore each country has the sustainability goal which are driven globally. However, each country has taken their own decisions. They have come out with their own ESG guidelines, and the ESG is driven from the sustainability goals. So, Basanji, what is your opinion, opening remarks before we start asking you further about this ESG?
CK, businesses are there to make profit. The first goal of any business in any society is start with a profit, and this is how it has been, and it will stay like this. The impact of the business on the environment and social impact is they've just started looking at it because they've seen certain changes which are severely impacting. Again, they are impacting business, so they're creating this ESG. Now, please understand, this is not like something they are giving back to society. Why was it brought in? Was because they were getting affected by ESG, and some countries were more, some were less, some were exploited. So they thought, why not bring something? And if you ask me, it's a kind of fancy kind of thing where investors majorly, the investors are looking at something beyond this because they are tired of just the revenue generation. And if you have to raise money, it looks nice, it gives a pretty picture that you have a rosy kind of thing, that your company is looking at ESG also. This is being very blunt about it, and there are no metrics which you could see. But this is so critical, it has become so critical, the climate change and the impact on society of obviously, and so many scams which are happening, where you don't even have the audits which are happening properly. The pay of executives are 20, 30 times or 200 times at times of an average pay of the worker of the company. Where is it headed?
All right, Vasanji, I think you are expressing your frustration. I think it looks like, or your sense of not achieving purpose. And everybody's talking about ESG, where nobody is actually clear where it is going, from where it is coming, etc. So I think the purpose behind ESG, if you can, the real purpose, the real good purpose with which the ESG initiative has been started. So we can start with that. So the first question is, what is the purpose of the ESG? How it is going to affect us? Over to you.
Right. Now, if we see, ESG has three components. Everyone understand there is one environmental factor, which is like the impact of the way the business is done on the environment, greenhouse emissions, and various other factors. The things that are polluting river or pollution, whatever. These are things which come into environment. Then we get down to the social factors, which includes diversity, the union laws, or certain things which impact a society at a large, and it has more ramifications. And then G is for governance, where you have a board and how does board behave in an ethical manner, and the kind of payments or payouts or salaries or remunerations to the executives for doing certain things. And we have seen that there is a gross difference, a huge difference between why somebody is paid. Recently, there was a change in Starbucks. I think the CEO is paid millions of dollars, and his travel only would cost certain millions because he is staying far off. So he'll fly by jet from A to B. Now, this really comes into environmental and governance kind of thing, but we can say it's a company policy. We can debate over that.
Yes, Prasanji, I'm aware and I've read this news that 3 times in a week the CEO will be traveling by a private jet, coming back and forth from his place of work because it is compulsory for him to attend the office 3 times in a week. So this is absurd. Anyway, let's move to the next question that we have, and that is, how can we support and champion ESG in India? That is the second question. What is your opinion?
See, I'll, I'll start from the basic. When people say there are corporations, who defines the policies for a government? For example, how is government defining a policy? Let's say an environment policy for a mining company, or for a certain a large enterprise like Tata or Reliance, for example. What kind of social thing they're doing? What kind of governance should be there? Who is deciding all that? Is it government, or is it the corporation which is putting it back to the government that we want it this way or we want it that way so that we can run business, and you get your funding? And now again, it's very touchy subject, where if you see, uh, there is no declaration of what kind of money is being pumped by the companies into government as a donation, and what kind of ESG scores are they getting. This has been a huge debate in US over this. India is also heading towards the same path, that we are creating a structure. We were one of the first ones to do CSR kind of thing, that yes, companies should have a moral or a social responsibility. Now, India, if you see, Tata is well known, even Birla's for certain things. Even Reliance is doing, bit of those kind of works, but we do not see a real push where it is needed, in the ESG sector. Governance is fine. Probably the family-run houses, which are like Tata is a family, Reliance is family, or larger organization, are still doing better at the governance side. The social and then the environmental is still to be looked into deeper, where things are getting exploited. They're exploiting, the various hilly regions, or whatever workers are exploited in various sectors in society. So the laws has to be created, and there has to be a metric which measures. There is nothing which is like measurable in ESG. It's more of a subjective kind of thing. So we are looking for something that, tell me, how do you define that a company is like in line with ESG? How do you measure it up? So I am still hunting down for that policies or those things which needs to be brought into picture. Though India mandated in 2023, I think 20 to 23 companies need to come out and declare certain things in ESG, but the metrics are still awaited.
Yes, Prasant, actually, you're right. There was a regulation for this CSR, which is like 10% of your profit you have to spend, and against the 10% expenditure that you have, you will get tax rebate. That was the law. But for ESG, there is nothing clear. However, I personally believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that all the ESG goals that we have in India are driven from the United Nations Sustainability Goals, because it's a very comprehensive plan. But you're right. There are no regulations. There is no compulsion. Although even I have received the ESG, letters from the government saying, please tell us how far you have reached in achieving the ESG for my company. But I have not responded back. There are no compulsion as of now. So I think there are, not too much of clarity at this point in time. But then you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I think, see, CK, these are fine. Again, we have to go back to various sectors in the if we discuss, for example, the e-sector, environmental kind of thing, you have a lot of things there: greenhouse, deforestation, biodiversity, carbon emissions, waste management, pollution. How do you actually define these, and how do you tell companies to reduce this to what level? Now, is United Nations or the West or the EU is going to determine what I need to do in my country when they've actually done whatever they wanted to? You know what kind of carbon emissions probably China, US, and these companies have done or they are still doing, and they're asking others to curb it. Same way is like the nuclear technology, which say we have missiles, but you can't have those, right? So we will need to come up with our own. United Nations is again controlled. I go down to very practical things, and I don't mince my words. It's very simple. Who is running United Nations? Who's deciding? Who wants these things to be implemented, and where and how is decided by certain top five countries, if I may say that. So about environmental, definitely it's being run through these things, but it should be country wise, that I need to take care of my greenhouse emission, my deforestation, my, for example, my carbon, my waste management, my pollution. That is my country. Look at the condition of Delhi. It chokes, there are various, they're choking, people can't even breathe. Waste management, the sewage, where what are we doing? It's all eyewash which is happening. Governments are not doing enough, and we are watching it for 15 years. This is not frustration. You and I are suffering, and our kids are suffering because of this. That's an environmental. Now you come to the social aspect: diversity, inclusivity, human rights, supply chains, even abortion, for example, in human rights. What kind of inclusivity do we have? What diversity are we looking at in an organization? Who is deciding that? What human rights, for example, a worker has regarding, for example, his exit, his entry, his salaries? If they are not paid, companies are, they go out of business. So who takes care of all that? How is a company responding into those kind of things? Companies simply wind up, millions of people left, or hundreds of thousands are unpaid. Who's looking at that? This is critical. Now, governance, again, same story. It falls down to governance eventually. And why governance come into picture? Because the government is not asking the right questions from the corporates. And why they are not asking, it's for you to think what is happening there.
So there are a lot of unanswered questions. We will cover all of them. We'll try to cover all of them. Let's move on to the next question. And the next question is, what skills and leadership required are essential for transforming our ESG goals? So, Vasant, over to you. Have you thought about anything we should do? I mean, not particularly having the goals or a essential trait, but can we do something here as an organization, as a small organization? Over to you.
Definitely, you and I probably, or any medium or a smaller kind of organization, although our impact is not that much. You understand that our scales are limited, but somewhere we can start, looking at things, how to take care of the environment with our, whatever we can do. Now, when we talk of the skill sets that probably a leader or a board or someone should have, uh, people start thinking, you should have a vision, that now your mindset, how your mindset should be. You should engage with stakeholders. You can keep talking to the government. You can keep talking to your people and make a strategy. Ethics will come into play. You have to adapt to various things. The leadership, I really can't really tell you that what we can do or how we should move on this, because I haven't really gone deep into what I can do or contribute. I can do about governance, that yes, we ensure that we don't do anything unethical. We have inclusivity. We can bring in women or other sects of people. We don't differentiate between various religion or caste or creed or some things like that. Environmental, we do not have that impact. We'll have to go down to large industries and see what are they thinking about it. As I said, people are now coming up, because as an employee or a company has 10,000 employees or 50,000, a lakh employees, they can have an impact. They can talk to the company that, see, we must do certain things, where it takes care of the future generations and reduces the risk today to our life, or include the diversity, or going towards the governance model. This is where I am. I don't think that there is much that I have to discuss or talk regarding this aspect of it. No, I am not yet into that zone.
Well, I think there is lack of clarity, and if there are regulations, then obviously everybody will jump and then start thinking and start implementing. I think there is uh, it's not very strongly regulated at this point in time. But let's move on to the next very important question, which is the crux of the whole thing, which is about the cost benefit analysis. How do we balance the extra expenditure for implementing ESG? Are we going to generate profit because we have implemented ESG guidelines, or are we going to lose money? So, what is the balance, the financial balance, and the ESG impact? What do you think will happen if we start implementing ESG?
There are two ways of looking at this. One is, how will I equate increase in revenues? Because see, the whole game of a business is to generate profits. So if I have to invest into ESG, I would like to see how this gets converted into equity, or more, revenues getting generated. One part. Before that, I'll have to invest, so that I can get the revenues more in the long term, because it's a long term game. It can't be short term. Nothing will happen. Now, I have done certain studies and reports, and I've seen that 95% of companies have a report, sustainability reports, but they are not integrated with ESG. There is no equity. There is nothing which is stating that, how it is converting into the revenues, and so on and so forth. So the financial performance, is it affecting in a positive or a negative way? This is not yet out. People are not coming up with those things. Now when you see an industry reaching a level where it starts polluting the environment, then people start looking at it. How things move. So as I said, the boards and the investors have started looking at it, that yes, we have to have ESG and its impact on the financial performance. It is both ways. Initially, you will need a lot of funds, and this is where companies are not coming in, because it's hard to make money. And second, government is, how much can government, what rebates can government give you? And who's going to judge that, the impact? So we need proper regulations, and the industry will have to come up and bite the bullet. If you ask me, that I have to be socially, environmentally responsible. Governance is a part. Even an individual has to govern himself. So that is something which we can leave aside. But environment and social factors, I'm a corporate, I'm an entity, and my job is to give, basically. But before I can give, I need to generate. So how do I do that in an ethical way, where I include everybody around, and I really don't ruin so-called my environment and social aspect in the society? This is where you have to see how to take it forward from there.
Well, with regard to CSR, it was very clear that you have to spend 10% of your profits, and then you will get the tax rebate. You don't have to pay taxes on this money. So it was going for the social cause, and companies like Wipro, in fact, everybody. I mean, if your turnover is like 10 crores and more, it will make sense for business people to invest in CSR, or rather spend the money under CSR and claim the benefit. So I think something like that should be done. Don't you think so?
Yes, this is where I'm saying there is no metric, and who will define for each industry regarding again, environmental, social factors which are keen. Governance is everywhere, so please understand. Even a government has governance story. Though government is not into business, that is why the government doesn't play around with the environmental thing. But then this is what government controls. And when you auction, or when you put industries into a picture where they are able to impact at such a high level, I think these are the policies which needs to be communicated, and all stakeholders need to sit down. This is where corporation and government both need to come and sit together. Now, look at what is happening with electric vehicles, for example. India per se has said that they will not allow. If you see that we won't allow Tesla to come in unless it does X, Y, Z, and this. Uh, let's see what EV does. EV will, reduce greenhouse emissions. Uh, Another aspect of EV is that it needs charging. It will need power. It will need batteries. EV needs batteries. Where are batteries coming from? You have, the net effect has to be seen. One way we see that we are getting X benefit, and the other way that effect is getting negated. So we don't look at that and we say that we are moving towards environmental or the sustainability aspect of it. This is not going to work in the long run. It looks rosy, as I said. Everything is being pushed into a rosy picture that getting an EV is good. I don't know for whom is it good. uh, we are worried that more countries or more resources will be removed from the earth, and there'll be more exploitation, more human exploitation. Tesla is very good at environmental kind of things if you read the report, but their social and governance is way too bad. Social because there have been a lack of clarity on how they treat their workers, and there's been a lot of discrimination, and the governance also is like very closely done up. So how do you measure a company like Tesla, which says that they are doing very well at environmental because they created an EV, right? And they are bringing it brilliant. I mean, I'm not denying the fact that the guy or the company has a huge impact, but the net effect is what?
Absolutely, Basanji. In fact, electric vehicle actually cause more environment pollution than it solves, because the lithium ion battery takes 500 years to, uh, you know, dissolve in the atmosphere, or the nature. So, I mean, and electric vehicle.
Tell me the charging of, we don't have power. So you understand that electricity we are falling short, because there's not enough generation. How are you going to charge those millions of cars which would be on the road if they are? I don't know.
Recently, we had covered on our channel one very important scientific discovery, which was coming from the Okinawa Institute of Technology from Japan, where they have invented a method by which you can charge the car once in the morning when you start your car or vehicle, and then after that it will remain charged. There is no need for a battery, and then you can use the maglev technology to propel further. So there will be no battery, there will be no electricity, extra electricity, etc. So that is something that we have recently covered on our channel. So I think, nutshell for environment, I think we need to have proper guidelines and EV and these things. I mean, the government is in India is moving very rapidly, especially when it comes to railways, electrifying all the freight movement, etc. They are also thinking about electrifying the truck lanes across the highways so that the electric trucks can fly. But the problem is the batteries will generate more and more environmental catastrophe, and also the solar cells, again, once they are discarded, they are very bad for the environment. So I think these are certain things which are still not answered, and government has to do walk the talk, in my opinion, because they are the first one to drive the whole thing. So they must implement the ESG guidelines in their ministries first before they start talking to the private sector. Don't you think?
See, this has to start from there. But again, I'm touching down on the nerve. Who runs the government? This is a debate which is running in US, that corporations run the government. The kind of funding they give, if you look at what's happening, there are billionaires who get the policies made now. They fund either Democrat or Republicans, and what do you think? Why are they funding? We both know what's happening. We are not really looking at, it's the corporations which need to step up, and They need to move away from that, the profit mindset, that if I have to generate a profit, and in the long run, what's the sustainability and impact of that on the humanity. This is where the morals and ethics come into play. We have to be more human from that aspect. The kids of these billionaires are getting affected. I don't know when will they wake up. I'm surprised. Look at the food companies. I can go on now, leave that I with some other day. That I think we'll have to first look into ourselves. Introspection has to start from me. Government is not running the industries, and nor they are creating policies. They depend on corporations to fund them, that. And the policies are created from that aspect. Every large policy has been formed looking at certain industries or certain large companies in mind. uh, it's a basic fact which people should understand, and they also know it, but nobody speaks up, or they don't, or they can't, or if they do, they think it's not enough.
So, Basant, we had a fantastic discussion today on the ESG. Lot of clarity is not available at this point in time, but heart to heart, as good citizens, we know that we need to implement ESG across the board, across government, across small, medium, large enterprises, all kinds of people, all kinds of walks of life. So we'll leave it at that. We will revisit the subject again if something happens in future. So thank you so much for finding time and joining us live and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Sik. Thank you so much.
Friends, we had a fantastic discussion with Basant, and the topic is about ESG. And before I go, I would like to offer a trivia on this subject, especially when it comes to environment, which is very, very critical. There is a new technology, new paper, which has been published where scientists are saying that you can use a small, very minute, small black hole, put it in the orbit around Earth. Black hole needs to be sustained also, because if the black hole is very small, it will evaporate. So for sustaining, you can take all the trash from Earth, which we are generating as human race, and throw it in the black hole, so that the black hole in the orbit remains sustained, and then it will be a free energy for us for eons. So it's a food for thought. With this, I will end this live stream, and promise to come back in the next one very soon. Thank you so much.